Oh, how's it going, everybody? So, we're back for another edition of All In, where I'll pick a band, and I'll listen to the entire discography, and I'll give my thoughts on it. Now, the band in question must have at least 5 original studio albums. Cover albums can count. Generally, I don't talk about acoustic or live albums, unless most of the tracks are in that original form. So here we go. We're going with something local for those of you that are in Central PA, or particularly the Harrisburg area. We feature Poison. That's right. So, in the midst of the 80s hair bands, in the hair band era, they have their debut album, Look What the Cat Dragged in 1986, all the way up to their cover album, Poisoned, which was released back in '07. And it's a total of 7 albums total. So here we are, 1986. Look What the Cat Dragged In dropped, and so we start off with Cry Tough, I Want Action. Yep, very sexual song right there. I Won't Forget You, so of course, we're almost at the peak of the hair bands. You've got to have that power ballad. That's definite hair band formula for the time. Then you got Play Dirty, Look What the Cat Dragged In, love that song. Talk Dirty to Me, another good one. Want Some, Need Some, Blame on Me, Number One Bad Boy, and Let Me Go to the Show. And yeah, these guys came out swinging on this one. I love this album. But I never actually had any of the albums on physical copy. I just had this compilation here. And then later on I downloaded all the albums. So I didn't really go into detail with them until here recently, as far as like, listening to the full albums goes. So we move on to 1988's Open Up and Say Ah. And yeah, they had a controversial album cover on this one, where a dude was sticking his tongue out. It kind of reminds me of like an '80s version of Gene Simmons. And then they edit the cover to just show the eyes of the character on there. So I don't know why that was so offensive. I don't understand it. I don't know. Too many pussies out there, I guess. So on this album, we start off with Love on the Rocks. You got Nothing But a Good Time, definitely an anthem for them. Back to the Rocking Horse, Good Love, Tearing Down the Walls, Look But You Can't Touch, Fallen Angel, that's a pretty good one. Of course, you have to have the ballad, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, definitely a big song on this. And then they did a Loggins and Messina cover, Your Mama Don't Dance, But Your Daddy Don't Rock and Roll. And then you have Bad to Be Good, ending that album. So here again, another good solid album from these guys. We move on to 1990. Already they have had 2 good albums here. Like they've been consistent, like every 2 years it seems. So here we are with Flesh and Blood. They seem to get, like, as if they weren't already poppy, they seem to get a little bit more poppy on this one. So here we start off with Strange Days of Uncle Jack, Valley of Lost Souls, Flesh and Blood Sacrifice, Swamp Juice, and the very pop radio friendly Up Skinny Bop. I remember that song being like all over pop radio back in the day, like I'd say around 1990, 1991, you heard it everywhere. Like even 98 YCR in Central PA was like our main pop station, and they played it all the time. So then we got Let It Play, Life Goes On, which was sort of another ballad. Come Hell or High Water, Ride to Win, I love that one. Don't Give Up an Inch, that's what she said. Something to Believe In, okay, so that would be the ballad here. Ball and Chain, Life Loves a Tragedy, and Poor Boy Blues. And yeah, that's definitely a good one here too. I don't mind it. And then we don't generally talk about the live albums, but they did have some studio tracks with this live compilation. They did Swallow This Live in '91, or yeah, it was recorded in '91, released later in '91, of course. And yeah, I did actually download this album and listen to the whole set, and I thought it was pretty good, but we're just going to talk about the new tracks here. So you have So Tell Me Why, Souls on Fire, Only Time Will Tell, and No More Looking Back. And honestly, I don't remember like any of those songs being popular off of this particular album. But here we go. So we move on to 1993. So as I've said time and time again, this is where grunge pretty much fully took over the main spotlight. But Poison, they're still at it in '93. You know, they're still getting by. So you have Native Tongue, The Scream, Stand, which actually was played on the radio a good bit, despite the fact that hair bands were kind of out by this time. But yeah, Stand definitely stood out for sure. No pun intended. You got Stand Alive, Until You Suffer Some, Body Talk, Bring It Home, 7 Days Over You, Richie's acoustic song, Ain't That the Truth, Theater of Soul, Strike Up the Band, Rod Child Ride, and Blind Faith, and Bastard Son of a Thousand Blues. And yeah, this is their longest album to date, as far as that goes, clocking in about 56 minutes and 20 seconds, so almost an hour-long album. But I mean, surprisingly, I actually did enjoy it. I mean, it definitely stuck to the formula that they've been doing in the previous albums. So yeah, I mean, good on them. I like this album, surprisingly. Then, of course, in '96 they released this Greatest Hits compilation, which we generally don't talk about Greatest Hits compilations either, but you know, we'll talk about the previous unreleased songs on it. So you got Sexual Thing and Lay Your Body Down, which none of them were actually singles. They were just new tracks on the compilation, so I never knew them until I got the compilation. So then we move on to the millennium. Yes, 2000. So here we are with Crack a Smile and More. So kind of an interesting fact about this album is everything here was recorded from anywhere between 1994 and 1995, but it hadn't been released till 2000. So it's almost like they shelved their material and then brought it back out later. So what's kind of weird here is the 2 new tracks off of this compilation actually landed on this album that we're talking about now. So it's almost like they were giving you like a little preview in the Greatest Hits album. So that's pretty cool. So here we have The Best Thing You Ever Had, Shut Up and Make Love, Baby Gets Around a Bit, cover of the Rolling Stone, and then you got Be the One, Mr. Smiley, Sexual Thing, which was on that Greatest Hits compilation, Lay Your Body Down, also from that compilation, No Ring, No Gets, That's the Way I Like It, Tragically Unhip, Doing As I Seen on My TV, One More for the Bone. Okay, so that must be, so this must be the special editions. That's an outtake track. You got Set You Free, which was an outtake, and then Crack a Smile, which is a previously unfinished demo. So, I mean, here again, like the last one, I mean, I actually did enjoy it. And here they sort of did hold up to the formula on this one too, as far as like how they originally were. But why they shelved it and waited to release it this long, I'm not sure exactly. So then we move on, again in 2000, we have Power of the People, which this is sort of like a compilation album here again. So we have a few previously unreleased tracks on this one. So we got, of course, the title track, Power of the People, Can't Bring Me Down, the last song, which is really not the last song, and then Strange, and of course, after all that, you have just a bunch of live tracks. And then, moving on, so, still keeping busy, 2002, we have Hollyweird, which is kind of a weird name. And so here we start off with the song Hollyweird, the title track, Squeezebox, which originally was The Who. Then you got Shooting Star. And then you also have Wishful Thinking, Get You Some, Emperor's New Clothes, Devil Woman, Wasteland, Live in the Now, Stupid, Stoned, and Dumb. And then there's 2 tracks called Home. One is Brett's story, the other is CC's story. And we end it with Rockstar. And here, I feel like here they got a little more poppy, if you will. And I felt like a couple of the songs in this album, and even in this era anyway, I feel like I get the Bon Jovi early 2000s country vibe in this. Except with Bon Jovi, they sort of stayed in the mainstream, just switching genres, but this here was sort of like overlooked. Like, I never really knew that this album existed, honestly, until like recently. And so, moving on here, we move on to their last. Well, the last one was their last original one. We move on to their last studio album, which is a cover album called Poisoned. So, in case you can't guess, yeah, it's all covers. So we start off with Little Willie, which was originally by Sweet. We have Suffragan City, which is David Bowie. I Never Cry, which was Alice Cooper. I Need to Know, which was Tom Petty. Can't You See, which is the Marshall Tucker Band. What I Like About You, the Romantics. Dead Flowers, the Rolling Stones. Just What I Needed, the Cars. Rock and Roll All Night, Party Every Day. That was Kiss, which we did an all-in with Kiss in the very beginning of this series. And here again, Squeezebox. It was already on one of the previous albums, but they included it right here. Don't Mess Around with Jim, which was Jim Gross. Your Mama Don't Dance, which was on a prior album. They put it on this compilation. And then they end it with We're an American Band by Grand Funk Railroad. Oh, but if you're lucky enough to get the Walmart version of it, you got Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake. Which, my version of it didn't have that song, so... But the covers actually were pretty good. I didn't mind them. I did like their cover of Suffragan City. I did like I Need to Know by Tom Petty. I did like that cover. Squeezebox was good too. And We're an American Band. That was a good way to end it. So yeah, that's pretty much a rundown of all their studio albums. And I'm trying to think how I want to rank these. I know I'm going to have to split this up in at least two different eras here. Let's see. So, okay, I guess we can do it this way. We can go 80s and 90s Poison, which that would include 4 albums. Then we can go 2000s Poison, which was 3 albums. So, as far as my favorite and least favorite of the 80s era, 80s and 90s era, I should say, I would say Look What the Cat Dragged In is at the top. My least favorite, but I don't hate it, is Native Tongue. But all in all, that whole era was really good. I liked it. As far as 2000s era Poison, or maybe some could call it like the hairband hangover, I don't know. As far as this era of Poison, I like to Crack a Smile and More of the Best. My least favorite would be Hollyweird. I don't know, Hollyweird just seemed a little bit too poppy, and the one song actually had auto-tune in it. I think I mentioned last video about that, like why with the auto-tune? I don't care what genre does it. I don't care for it. Like, auto-tune to the ears is like, fake boobs to the eyes. That's my analogy on auto-tune. But, I mean, yeah, Poison, definitely a good solid band. Local band, I might add. I mean, hometown boys to us here in Central PA. I will tell you, like my experiences with listening to the Poison. Well, in one case, watching Poison, I got to see them live in Hershey open up for Motley Crue back in I think it was either 2011 or 2012. And as you probably know, those of you diehard fans out there, they did start off with Look What the Cat Dragged In. That was the opening track whenever they got on stage. And C.C. DeVille and his awesome guitar solo, awesome. Hey, by the way, it's worth noting, C.C. DeVille was the only member not from Pennsylvania. I think he actually was from California, but the other 3 guys were from PA. And yeah, it's also worth noting too that Bret Michaels had a thing with Pamela Anderson before Tommy Lee or Kid Rock ever had anything there. But that's kind of getting off topic a little bit. But yeah, All In with Poison. Hope you enjoyed it. And next band is going to be from Boston. Can you guess? Tune in next time.